The Office of the Attorney General presented a council memo this afternoon, and it is for the engagement of consultancy firm for the development and deployment of the federal government contracts administration system for ministries, departments, and agencies of government, and digitization of the process of solicitors department. By way of historical antecedents, we are all aware of key incidences that happened as it relates to contract administration in Nigeria. One of them that is fresh in our memory is the P&ID, on account of which the federal government was by arbitral award subjected to a liability of over $10 billion on account of deficiency in the contract, and which translated to a higher risk. We are equally aware of the global steel contract relating to Ajakuta, the defect of which contract subjected to the federal government to higher risk and indeed stagnated our development towards industrialization on account of the fact that for over 2 decades, Ajakuta could not perform arising from the litigation. We are equally aware of similar contracts relating to Sunrise, on account of which litigation our dream to have Mambila could not proceed on account of litigations relating thereto. So now the federal government has been subjected to series of defective contracts, higher risk contracts that exposed the federal government to not only litigation, but to enormous monetary damages, which indeed affected our development as a nation. So a decision is taken as to how best we could address those deficiencies associated with contracts that exposed our nation to higher risk and damages. So this memo is intended to now bring about new development in the contract administration by way of deployment of technology, building capacity and specialization, developing a continuous checklist of the existing contracts, and ensuring that the interest of the federal government in whichever contract is to be considered by ministries, departments, and agencies of government is adequately addressed, and at the end of the day, try to the barest minimum to ensure that the federal government is not subjected to higher risk as it relates to damages, as it relates to deficiencies in contracts that it may eventually end up signing with third parties. So the federal government, the Federal Executive Council considered the memo presented by the Office of the Attorney General and eventually granted approval for the engagement of a consultancy service firm that will now assist in the deployment of technology, in building specialization, in developing checklists, building the capacity of the relevant departments in the Federal Ministry of Justice that are responsible for working and providing technical services in the formulation of the contracts, and to ensure at the end of the day going forward that necessary clauses, necessary protection is accorded the federal government in the art of drafting the agreement, in the art of ensuring that necessary checklist is developed that will guide the drafting of the agreement, and then reducing to the barest minimum the level of discretions being factored by the officers in the justice sector in the art of drafting the agreement, so as to deploy the necessary technological component support for what we are doing and reducing to the barest minimum the discretion. So that was what the contract is about, and at the end of the day, the council approved the contract in the sum of 630,132,750 naira, inclusive of the 7.5% value-added tax, with a completion period of 6 months.